Anyway, it's live on record. Obviously, I've got to be very professional, which is
bye if it's being recorded.
So we are being recorded now. So I would like to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Lawrence can't make it today because he's in a political meeting. Because Lawrence is a member of a certain Welsh political party, which we will not mention, called Gwlad. Just whilst we're getting into this today, then I'll ask you the question about these classes, and there's a two-pointed question. Roger made a good point about August, September, so we'll have a chat about that in a minute. Right, so first things first, Roger, Ellen and Nina, anything you would like to say on the topic of the 4 classes that we've already done?
No.
I missed last week's.
Nina didn't miss last week. Nina, anything you'd like to say, my lovely?
No, I don't think I know much. I just realised I have a bit of a dimbo. I shouldn't say this on YouTube.
Don't worry.
I've had to Google the answers to tonight's question.
Oh, but did you tell us what tonight's question was and give me the answer?
Well, I don't know if it's the right answer because I got it off Google.
Right, go on, give it to us then.
It was about the gold. Why hasn't Wales got the gold?
Hang on, start again. Let me set this question up. Originally the first day that we did this, which was 5 weeks ago, I asked a question. If Wales is one of the only places in the whole of Britain that you can find gold being mined, why therefore wasn't Wales very rich in the medieval period? And that's a really, really strong question, because when you think about it, you know, we've got some of the only gold mines in the whole of Britain. We've got some of the finest copper resources anywhere in Britain. We've got, as Roger knows, we've got lots of iron. But the main question was about the gold, right? So it's
a skill needed.
What we need is Nina to Roger, we'll come on to you in a minute. What we need is Nina to give us the answer.
Oh, no,
Nina.
I Googled it wrong. I thought you meant why isn't it rich now? Not about in the medieval period.
Oh, right, no, give us the answer now. Why isn't Wales rich now? Let's have that answer anyway. What
I saw was that originally the Celtic chieftains had the gold, then the Romans mined it, then it was the Welsh princes, and then in about the 1500s, the royal family took control of the mines, and they still have rights to the gold. Is that right?
I think everything that you said is correct, except for one minor issue there. And the minor issue is something that we will be sort of getting into tonight. We will mention the Welsh princes tonight, and that's an important thing. And I want to give you a little bit of a fact tonight about King David, which will be something that we'll do at the end. Now, the interesting thing is, you mentioned about the Welsh princes or the Welsh kings, because in fact they were actually kings, because in Wales we called our kings and rectors princeps, which were directly translated into English as princes. But those princeps were actually kings, right? So that's the one point. But that doesn't really tie in with your answer to the question. The answer to the question is, as the Welsh kings had the gold, right? Why didn't they use that gold to build up a strong army? Why didn't they use that gold to build up really fine castles? Why didn't they use the gold to do all these other things? And that's going to be an age-old question, but you've actually answered the question in a very fine way. And wherever you found that on the internet, I don't know, but that's actually quite a good answer to the question. And well done, Nina. You've got something right.
I did my homework.
You did your homework. Well done, you. So Right. So the first thing is, have you all found these four sessions? And now, obviously, we haven't done anything in this session yet. Have you all found these sessions useful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, do you see that? Do you see that? And we'll even ask the person who's not paying anything for these classes at all, Gareth. Have you found these classes useful, Gareth? The dog's found them useful, and the dog
Yes,
don't pay anything
yes,
for
he
these
has.
classes. Right, okay. So the other thing as well is I want to ask, and this
Are you
is
talking
basically
about Gary or Gareth?
Gary.
Gary, that's better.
Well,
This is the
I'll
first
ask
one
you
I've heard.
again, Gary. Have you found
This
these
is the first
classes
one I've
useful?
heard. This is the first one I've heard.
Oh, well, that's good. Then you're
Oh,
doing really
I
well.
thought
love.
Gary
You're
was the dog.
Oh,
Well, that's
This is
Gary.
Oh,
This
my
is
God.
confusing.
Oh.
Look,
Right, I've
look,
been called worse.
All right, John. Right,
Joe,
John. Right, okay. And then finally, I would like to ask. Roger's made a suggestion. If we carry on these classes and do, say, another 5 sessions, is it good to start next week? Right. Hang on a minute. Is it good to start next week, or is it good to start 1 week before the end of August, and then do 1 week at the end of August, and then 4 sessions in September? In that case, would you be up for that, Nina? Would you be up for that, Ellen? And would you be up for that, Roger? And also, I do believe that Pat would be up for that. Let's have just some feedback before we carry on with today. Roger?
well, yes, Jill said the first August one is the bank holiday, isn't it?
Right. Okay, then we'd have to start the first Monday in September.
In September
Okay.
proper.
Okay. Right. Okay.
That
Then.
would suit
So
me,
in
though,
that case, Roger, shut up. You're making this all up as you go along. Right, Roger. Would you be up for doing this the first Monday in September?
Yes.
Right. That's one. What about you, Nini?
Oh, consider it.
Is that a yes
Don't
or a
take
no?
long,
That's a don't know, maybe. Sorry.
though.
All right. What about you, Ellen?
It's a yes, because August will be hard because I'm looking after my grandson. So I don't
All right,
know
then.
when I'm, because of the
All
school
right, then.
holidays.
All right then. Well, that's good then. That's good. Right. So, okay, we'll be back. So I'll start. You know, it'll be £30 again. If you want to bung that over, you've got Ellen. You've got 3 weeks to get me the money. Otherwise, I'm sending the lads in. Roger, get me the money over, and Nina, you'll have to stay. If Nina, I know it's about money, Nina. If you save £4 every week now until the end of August, you'll have the money.
I know.
Well, shut up then. Right, okay. Right, what I want us to do, I want us to end with a bit of a bang, right? I do believe it's getting on a bit now, so we've got to crack on. But this is one big question, right? Who was the last true bloodline prince or king of Wales? And that's an answer that I want to bring to you. And I want an answer at the start of the sessions in September. And it's not who you believe it is, right? And no looking too much on Wikipedia, Nina.
Oh, I think I might know the answer, but I probably don't. This is just
No,
a
you're not-
wild
I don't-
guess.
I
All
don't
right.
want it yet. No, I
Without
don't want it
looking on Wikipedia. Sorry.
yet. I don't want it yet.
Okay.
Right.
Because you said it's not who you think it is, which made me think, oh, hang on.
No, mate,
No kings.
Shut your
No,
face.
no kings
Right,
in
okay then.
Wales, were there?
No, not the Wales with the H, you silly guy. Wales without the H. Oh, God's sake. Roger just don't understand these things sometimes. He's always convinced that Wales is actually in the sea. Right, okay.
Funny accent.
What's that funny accent you see, innit? Oh, bloody hell. So
Oh.
now we're going to go up to Dinas Emrys, which is in North Wales, where they all sound like Daleks. You know, as
Sounds
you know,
Irish.
the Daleks. No, shut up. Right, okay, let's crack on. Right, Dinas Emrys we're doing now, innit? Love it. Lovely boy, lovely boy. Right, Dinas Emrys. Now, the big question is, right, most of the sites that we've been visiting over the past few weeks, none of you have actually ever visited them, right? Now, I'm hoping that maybe we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 sites today, and we're mentioning one of the sites that we'll be doing starting off in the new sessions in September, right? So we've got 4 that we're looking in detail today, and we've got 1 that we'll be looking at in September. So you can remember that site and obviously answer to that question. So this is Dinas Emrys. It's in North Wales. This is a site for me personally, I have not actually visited, right? Which isn't too much of a first. I've visited most of the sites that we've actually come across in these lectures, but this is actually Dinas Emrys. Now, has anyone actually ever visited this site? Any of you guys at all?
No from me.
No from me.
No.
A goodbye from you. Right. Okay. Right. So this site is really interesting. And the reason why this site is really interesting is probably predominantly all built by the kings of North Wales, right? And the problem is, if you go back by saying kings of Wales, kings of North Wales, kings of Gwynedd, whatever, it gets very confusing. So princes and all this stuff. So we're going to just give them a respect, the kings of North Wales. That's how we're going to do it. So this site itself fits into a site that existed before the medieval period. Right now, I've got to be very specific where we are now. So the early medieval period that we did last week sort of covered roughly from the 400s, 476 to roughly 1066 in England, right? To be precise, the 14th of October, 1066 in England. So when we think about the Normans in Wales, the new period, the start of the medieval period in Wales, it's roughly sometime between about 1066 and 1090. So this site actually comes into the early medieval period and was a site that was reoccupied in the medieval period and rebuilt as a mighty defensive site. So it overlooks a very intriguing and beautiful landscape. As you can see, it's sort of in the heart of the North Walian landscape, Gwynedd landscape. Talking in the landscape of Beddgelert, you're not too far away from Porthmadog. It's in view of Snowdonia. It's there. Okay, so this site itself, underneath this wall, underneath this medieval wall, so we can transcript this wall probably built sometime in the 1100s. Underneath this wall is basically early medieval remains and possibly Roman period remains and possibly early remains as well. So this itself could be described as an early fortress of the pre-Kings of North Wales landscape, and then it comes into the North Walian landscape of archaeological sites alongside Dolbadan, alongside other sites such as Llys Rosser on Anglesey, and what we want to know about this site is much more detail. Lots of these sites that we're looking at today, other than Llys Rosser, I've given away one of the other sites that we're looking at, other than Llys Rosser, has been this. We need more information on this site. It needs more data to really understand what's going on. So this fortress site, if you want to give it that sort, and you can actually see that in the background as well. This fortress site, as described on a precipitous rock, nice word, precipitous, might well be judged one of the strongest of the kingship sites in North Wales. Before the 1100s and after the 1100s. But there's one interesting fact about this site. It's lost in history. We don't know much documentary information on this site. We don't know much documentary information on another site that we're going to be looking at today. Castell Morgroig. We don't have much documentary evidence on that either, and that's in South Wales. We have lots of information in a way on Llys Rosser that we are looking at today. And the other missing site that we will be looking at today is Dolforwyn. Now, we've got lots of information on Dolforwyn, Llys Rosser. This site we don't know much about. So this is a real gem. So it's only in the archaeology that we can really understand this site. So we've got rectangular stone towers, a stone tower at least. And some of this actually sticks out. We've actually got a medieval cistern, and this wall itself is part of one of those towers at the site. We've got a medieval cistern, so it actually had water at the site. Now they're excavating here, which is great. So, but we need more excavation evidence of this site. It's not been fully excavated. There's small excavations here, not as extensively excavated as we would think of Castell Morgroig, and not as extensively excavated as Dolforwyn. Again, we need more information on this site, but we know that they actually stored water at this site. So if it was a bit under siege, we know where the water's coming from, which is a very interesting point. Whenever we look at castles, the question I always get asked is, where's the water? Well, it had a cistern full of water, and as most of us know, living in West Wales, or living in this part of Wales, there can be a lot of water. Or as Ellen and myself and Gary know, we can also get times of the year where there's no water at all. So a big system would be ideal if this site is placed under siege. Its construction, the walls that you're seeing today are likely to be the work of Llywelyn the Great, Llywelyn ap Iorwerth. Now, he died in 1240, and he was the father of the great, well, he's actually the grandfather of Llywelyn ap Gruffydd, and also the great grandfather, well, the grandfather, what did you say, great, the grandfather of Dafydd ap Gruffydd, Llywelyn ap Gruffydd, Dafydd ap Gruffydd, and obviously you can work out that their father was Gruffydd. So that was their grandfather, who was Llywelyn ap Iorwerth. Now, Llywelyn ap Iorwerth, if he built this site, if he was responsible for building this site or rebuilding this site and sort of making a great site, we don't have much information on this at all. It's lost. It's a lost site in Welsh history, which is really interesting. Owing to its inaccessibility, very few people actually visit this site, and it's said that if you ever do visit this site, you've got to get special permission of the National Trust, because the site is actually quite vulnerable as well. You know, they're trying to stop people going up, they're damaging the site and so on. So it's actually quite a vulnerable site. And we know Llywelyn ap Iorwerth, Llywelyn the Great, who died in 1240, he was one of the big castle builders, one of the native castle builders in particularly North Wales, and he's got sites elsewhere in Wales as well, but this is one of the sites that he was responsible for getting out there and sort of making it shine above the landscape. And after the reigns of his grandchildren, Llywelyn and Dafydd, you know, this site would have been lost and abandoned forever. Now, it may have been a Machu Picchu type site, because for me, I believe that not all of these defended sites would have actually been found by the Normans. I don't believe that they all would have been. You know, in today's Wales, you can have a site in the middle of nowhere and nobody knows it's there. And that's with all the roads and trains and you know, planes and all the rest of it. So back then, Cymru Wales would have been a great deal more wooded and forested than it is today, and it might be quite possible that you know, this could have been lost in time, and then obviously as the line of the kings of North Wales died out, this site was probably slowly abandoned and lost forever. So we don't really know much more about this site than anything else other than the images. And look at this here in the middle. It's like a pillow. You can imagine if surrounded in trees and having a cap of, you know, having some trees sort of on the lower sort of escarpment of this, it's quite possible it could have been lost and missed in our history, and hence why we don't have much in the way of documentary evidence. And it's very likely that the library of Llywelyn ap Iorwerth, Llywelyn the Great, and all the records and everything would have been destroyed at Llys Rosser, which is the next site that we're going to look at. So this is why we don't know anything about this site. Or maybe the records were actually destroyed by the Welsh so that nobody knew of all these sites. So again, looking at this, getting some idea of the walls, getting sort of feel and a sense of this as it looks out the landscape. And one of the things that angers me, and I'm sure angers Roger and the rest of us watching today, and there's a couple of people online, is that, you know, we don't really keep and uphold these sites as much as we do in regards to, say, something like Caerphilly, something like Castell Coch, something like Carnarvon, Conway, Rhagland, and these other places, simply because they weren't built by the native lords. That's enough of my sort of political badgering today. But we don't really know much of these sites, and most people don't visit these sites. I visited a site which is near Aberaeron, and with Michelle on my birthday this year, and it was a site in the middle of nowhere, and it was a castle site that we thought, oh, we'd go and visit it, and it was Abernant Castle, and we, I think that's the right name of it. I probably got it wrong, but anyway, it was on a tributary of two sort of streams, rivers, and we went to visit it, right? And we couldn't find any information about it on the internet at all, other than the fact that somebody had taken some photographs of it, right? On the way back, we were met by a guy on a bike, not on a bike, on a quad, with a shotgun, saying, "You've got to leave now because a shoot is going on, and this is private property." So we went off and we got back to the car. And again, there's another example of a site which was native built that nobody ever gets to see. Again, I've got political again. Sorry, I do apologize. Again, more of these walls, more of this site. Sort of, it is a scheduled protected ancient monument. It's in a guide to ancient and historic Wales, Gwynedd, written by Francis Leach for Cadw, and that was published in 1995. So again, if you get ever to see this site, you've got to sort of contact the National Trust warden, and naturally they will sort of give you permission to go there. And again, more of these walls, giving you more of an interest. And what we do see with lots of these walls and lots of the remains is they are later. They do date from the period of Llywelyn the Great, and obviously his son and his grandchildren. And one thing that is different from this site, if you want to compare it with somewhere like Dolforwen, it is the fact that the Normans never ever got you, or we believe they never got you. Hence that thing that I've said, the Machu Picchu of Cymru, Wales. So this next site that we're going to go to, no introductions, and I've been to this site, I think probably twice, like maybe 2 or 3 times. This is Llys Rosser, and this is the palace, the Palace of Rosser, Llys being palace, or main location, Llys. And there's a reconstruction of this actually at St. Fagans. So, you know, what they did at St. Fagans, the site was originally, I can remember when this site was actually found, and what it was. I'll give you a bit of a background. Let's get an image on there now. I'll give you a bit of a background. At Newborough, which is nearby, by about before the end of the reign of Edward I in 1307, because that's when he died, they built a new llys, or a new lordship, which was at Newborough, and this site was abandoned. This was one of the palaces of the kings of North Wales, the kings of Wales, if you want to call it like that. This was, I can remember it was in the 1990s, and there was a big thing about this, and I remember going seeing the site, and I actually felt quite privileged. So so what we've got here is that this site itself would have been one of the royal courts, along with Abergwyngregin, which is on the North Road, on the way to if you want to say Chester, and or Wrexham, or wherever you're going at on the North Road. And this is that about Gwyngregin is one of the other courts, and there's a few other courts as well, other than castles. They're courts. They rather than castles. That's the difference. Castles are defended sites. This is a court, right? And this is where the leaders and the kings of North Wales would have visited to offer justice or to accept fealty from the people of the land. And this itself, you know, it sort of fell out of history, but we know it existed. It fell out of history, but we know it existed.
Carl, where do you say this is?
There, Anglesey.
What was the name of it?
Llys Rosser, near Newborough.
Please, well, it's Ross.
Rosser, R-H-O-S-Y-R.
Oh,
Llys Rosser.
yes.
Yeah. So it was up until I'm not sure when the time is, because my mind's a bit lapsed, but probably late 80s or whatever, early 1990s. Archaeologists at Gwynedd Archaeological Trust considered this to be a site to excavate. The site was excavated.
It's the late 90s, I think.
I would argue early 90s, because I was actually there in the early 90s.
All right, because we passed it when we went to see Ynys Llanddwyn, and the dig was on then, and that was in 1996.
That makes sense.
I lied, that would be 1997 or 98.
Yeah, you are right, but I can remember being there about 1990. Actually, I heard about it before, but you are right. About something like 1995, so it must have
96. Yeah, I just remembered, because we got engaged on diwrnod Santes Dwynwen, on Santes Dwynwen Day. So
on 25th, yeah.
25th of January. So we went to see Ynys Llanddwyn, where Santes Dwynwen had a chapel, and this dig was going on. So it would have been 96. That's it. Before we got married in 97.
So in other words, you and I and good old Gary and Gareth the dog, right? Are very privileged.
The dog, but this is Gary.
I'm sick of it. Look, Gareth, G.
Gary.
Gary. Anyway,
Yes,
look,
Gary.
the point is, you have seen this site, and yeah, you were privileged. You're privileged like me to actually have seen it. So
Yeah.
that there it is from above now, and it's a scheduled ancient monument. It's now owned by Cadw, right? They actually own it, and excavations revealed this. So we got the naive, we got the chamber, we got some outbuildings, and if we look there, that's a bit of a reconstruction. Now, I haven't got the image of St. Fagans, and I'm sure you can look that up, but they've done a reconstruction of this at St. Fagans. And obviously, if you want to go back and look at this and think, right, that little thing there is the little entrance, and that there is the hall. So if we go to the reconstruction, we can see that little entrance to the area, and that being the hall. You can see it's not massively defended. It didn't need to be, because this is in friendly territory. Excavations supported what me and the little gang here have seen there. Excavations revealed the enclosure had a hall, accommodation, storage barns, originally built in stone and wood. So the stone footings and maybe the upper parts of the buildings in wood. Maybe not all stone. I don't know. I can't argue with that. I'm not going to go there. And the buildings may have occupied an area which was about nearly 140 meters in length by nearly 100 meters in width, which is quite a nice sizable area for a court on a fleece. Now, what we know is that what happened is after the disaster, after the disastrous campaign of the Welsh kings to try and resist Edward I, the site sometime by about 1283, 1284, it was completely abandoned. And therefore, what Edward said, right, we don't want any association with this site, and there would have been a village around it as well. We don't want it. We want to allow this site to be abandoned. And what happened is a sandstorm covered the site, and all activity at the site ceased. And this is what they see in the archaeology. They actually see that the evidence of the sandstorm tells us that this is when the site was actually abandoned. Sometime we actually got a precise date. By 1332, as in the annals, the site was abandoned, right, forever, completely. Now, that's really interesting. One thing I'd like to say is this: we don't really get sandstorms anymore in Wales, right, which is quite strange. But in history in Wales, there are lots of sandstorms. Anyway, there's probably reasons for that. So apparently, when the Gwynedd Archaeological Trust were initially excavating this site as early as 1992, and then public could visit there from, say, 1995, and there were still excavations going on after that, as Ellen's pointed out, right? The Gwynedd Archaeological Trust were sort of aware of early writings in the 1700s. In the 1700s, there was the writer Henry Rowlands, and Henry Rowlands had visited the area, and he said after a sandstorm, some strange walls had been made visible, right? And it was a niche. Some people actually thought that you know, it may have been an important medieval site, but it was lost then. It was completely lost. And then the Gwynedd Archaeological Trust started looking at it. And then finally at the site, if we look at the excavation plan and we think of this as well. Now, what's interesting, if you look at this here, you can see a chamber and you can see this thing coming off it. So if we go to the illustration, it doesn't show it, which I think is a bit weird. Anyway, right, so we've got that really strange feature. We believe it's a corridor going somewhere. Where that corridor is, not sure. Anyway, so we've got Naiad, we got the chamber, we've got storage buildings, and what they think of, we've got the main hall, and we've got the wall going around it, and we've got 3 large buildings at least, possibly more buildings that haven't been excavated. And if we look at the aerial view, there might be more under there, alongside a bit north of that on the plan, but the barn there, or storage barn. And obviously you've got the hall, and this site is all completely protected now. And when they excavated the site, they knew it was one second. Bear with me a sec. I sent you a message on teaching. So I can do call in about half an hour. Picture, love you. Bye-bye. Right, back to where I was, folks. Sorry about that. So, you know, this site, one of the reasons why we knew this was to do with people of great social status in North Wales, i.e. the kings of North Wales. We know because of the very rich tapestry of pottery that was found at the site, you know, that this pottery wasn't the normal pottery to actually find at the site. It'd been brought in. They actually found silverware at the site as well, indicating use of a high social status, as well as lead fishing weights. And this itself is one of the only sites of this importance to be excavated anywhere in Gwynedd. Now, Gwynedd is a large county. Abergwyngregin, which I think is actually in the county of Conwy, I'm not exactly sure, but that's sort of on the border anyway. But this has been really thoroughly excavated. It's a scheduled ancient monument, and it belongs to you and I. It belongs to the nation, which is absolutely great. So what we've done now, we've looked at 2 sites. Now the next site, I was thinking about Dolbadan today, but what I've decided to do is to go into a site that has been more thoroughly excavated than I think this site, because there's more of this site that could be excavated, and you can actually see the earthen bank there on the left. That means there's actually more under that, so more to be excavated. And again, back to the excavation plan. So the next site that we're going to look at is Dolforwyn, and that is in the county of Powys. Again, if you do get to go to St. Fagans, you can see the reconstruction of the llys at St. Fagans. And this is, a really interesting site. Like all the other two sites that we've seen, there's something different about this site. And even I've been to, obviously I haven't been to Tinnis Emrys. I've been to Llys, but I've not been to this site either, Dolforwyn. And this site itself is a site that paints a landscape and a world of Wales having great aspirations to be a completely independent realm. This was in Dolforwyn, built by the son of Llywelyn the Great, Llywelyn ap Iorwerth, right? This was actually built by Gruffydd, right? And now this itself, this site itself was built in Powys. This was a daring expression of Welsh might and Welsh power. And this site itself, when the aspirations of Welsh independence were snuffed out, this site itself was then occupied by the Normans. And as you can tell, it's well presented, and it's been very much well excavated. It's a really nice site to visit from all sort of from all sort of descriptions that I've actually heard of the site. And the excavations here were undertaken over a long period of time. I used to come across reports about this site from 1981 to 2002, and it's really well presented. Of all the Welsh castle sites, and obviously it was then reoccupied by the Normans. Of all the Welsh castle sites, this is one of the ones that is really well presented, and most of what you can see is of a build by Gruffydd ap Llywelyn, who was the son of Llywelyn ap Iorwerth. Now, this site itself, after it fell from Welsh hands into English hands, and then it fell from English hands into Welsh hands, it was like a constant thing going back and forth. And this itself, they say, in this description, the castle was fairly primitive. Well, there it is, Dolforwyn. It's near the Welsh English border, and you can imagine my French, an expletive come in, how pissed off the English would have been with this site on their doorstep. Obviously Gruffydd's construction here, and so, but if you look at this here, you look at this aerial view and look at how some people argue that what you are seeing is big chunks of this might actually be Norman build, but it's quite an important site, and this was being constructed between 1273 and 1277. Back to what my notes say, the castle was fairly primitive in its concept compared to some structures to be found elsewhere. Now, all right, then, if you want to compare it with Caerphilly, right, okay, it doesn't hit the mustard. If you want to compare it with Chepstow, it doesn't hit the mustard, right? But there's one thing about this site. Come on, be honest with us. Caerphilly was being built over, 150 odd years before this site was being constructed. This is relatively a new build. It doesn't have a defended gateway like Norman castles. Now, one thing I want to point out is that Welsh castles are towers and walls, right? Norman castles are towers, walls, gateways, and ditches. As you can see, if you look at this one, it's on a precipice without much need for a ditch, right? There are ditches, but this is on top of stone, right? Natural stone. So it didn't really need to defend itself, reliant upon ditches anyway. So this site itself, if you want to compare it with the size of Chepstow, is quite small. But again, we've given the reasons there. A rectangular platform hewn from the rock, some 240 feet in length, by 90 feet in width, but 30 meters in width. But that's still quite a big area. And what we have is one of the other things that makes it sort of a Welsh build site is that you've got these towers organized in a strange higgledy-piggledy way, and you've got the typical D-shaped tower, which us Welsh like to build. Right, we like to build these D-shaped towers, and wonderful Roger will say that there's an unusual circular tower there that looks similar to a circular tower, that it's a trellick. But I believe that tower at Trellick of Stuart's is actually something else. And this is actually quite bigger than the tower at Trellick. So this itself, as we've already said, this then was captured by Edward I, right? Who basically banished Gruffydd from actually continuing to build at this site. And it basically, Edward I said, hang on a minute, right? You Welsh shouldn't be doing this, right? It's our country, but you shouldn't be doing this. So it was went into the hands of the Mortimer family, right? And obviously it then, over time, it sort of switches, in sort of who's sort of in possession of it. But and what I mean by that is that after 1283, when the hopes of an independent Wales are finally extinguished and snuffed out, what you do find is that this was one of those sites that was being captured constantly by Welsh rebels, and would have been one of those sites that would have been captured by Owen Glyndŵr at some time as well. Really, really nice site, and it's very much well worth a visit. And again, looking at this, it's got that sense of some of the other sites in West Wales, for example. When you go to somewhere like Carreg-Cennen, or you go to somewhere like Dynevor, or Dolforwyn, not Dolforwyn, Dynevor, hang on a minute, Droesloyn, Droesloyn, right? If you think of Droesloyn, right, Droesloyn, Carreg-Cennen, and you've got Dynevor, they're sort of really not like Norman build. They're built in a strange way. And if you look at, were you with me at Droesloyn, Roger?
I don't think so, no.
Well,
just I knew from my parents-in-law, they came from there. It was quite well known, famous. And of course, with these castles, like with the mansions we found with the thing at Trellick and all this, a lot of the Welsh mansions and structures tended to be not so grand as the Norman, because they had perhaps the best building skills in stone. I don't know if that's correct all the time, depending what you're building with. But I think very often they weren't the same, I don't know, intricate design maybe as a lot of the later ones. Because, and another thing is as well, this one here is near the border where the declares came in as barons to earlier on to make inroads into Wales. So they needed more structures to defend against that, wouldn't they? For the Anglo-Normans.
There's lots in what you say. Obviously, the Norman lords probably feel threatened. This isn't a border landscape, and you know, some of the things in what you've said. Sometimes you just said that maybe we really didn't have the skills to build like the Normans, but then again, we did have skills to build these sites. We built them in a different way, Roger. We built them in a different way. Yeah. What I'm going to say, Roger, this is a fudge answer. We didn't need to build them like the Normans because we had other ways of building. You know, we could put boulders on top of boulders and go to somewhere like Rosgadvan in Gwynedd, where the cottages are built from constructed just the normal everyday cottages are made out of just massive boulders, right? Well, why go through the effort of intricacy, right? And just get on with it and build these things. And this is what we're saying. In other words, we built these things and got on with it. Now, the problem is, Roger, you mentioned about later castles. I think when the likes of Edward is building his castles, like Harlech, like Carnarvon, like Beaumaris, like Conway. Right, when they're building these Roger, what's happening is somebody sat down and saying, right, I'm Edward the First, right? We'll get James the Mason in, right? And all of these will be built copybook, right? None of these were built copybook, and the Normans could choose. The Normans could choose their location, right? The native lords and kings of Wales couldn't choose their locations. They had to adapt to their landscape, right? And this is what we see. You know, it's Roger. When you're in the thick of it in West Wales, right? Ellen will know what I'm talking about. We build things differently because there's different conditions, there's different situations, and it makes us build differently, right? So you can't compare any of that with Chepstow or Caerphilly.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah.
But Roger, I'm not dismissing anything you said. I agree with what you said.
It's quite right. It's scale and need, as you say. It's quite right. You wouldn't build just to show off. You build what you can with the workforce you've got, with the skills and tools you can get, which probably the Normans and Anglo-Normans had more of a tradition with it all. Maybe, I don't know, than the Welsh would have. As you say, what they need. Because otherwise it gets very expensive and you haven't got the people to do it all the time, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. But if you, Roger, if you've got work gangs going around to build something like Harlech and Carnarvon and Beaumaris, you can just get on with it, you know? We just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So again, just a sort of a little reminder, looking at the aerial view, we're going to go on to the next site now, and the next site is just a really...
Can I just ask a question?
Please do. Go for it.
Is that classed as a castle or still a llys?
This one here, no, it's a castle.
That's classed as a castle now.
Now, at least Rosser, that is a llys.
Yeah.
On Anglesey, and this
would
in
this
Powys.
have been a llys before the Normans would have been there?
You're talking about conceptually. That's a good question. Now, our conceptual landscape. Now, actually, right. Let's just do this conceptually, right? In fact, Roger's answers are going to come out now in another way because you've actually asked the right question at the right time. So let's just sort of get into this. Let me answer this question. Let's build my answer, right? Let's build my answer, right? So we build castles in a different localities, usually on escarpments. You know, like Dolbadan in Gwynedd, like Dolforwen, like Castell Morgraig, like Droesloin, these different types that we've mentioned. So we built them in different areas, right? Why did we build them, right? And the answer is we built them for other purposes other than just purely defense. So the thing is, right, why would you build a castle in the middle of nowhere with absolutely no access to any trade routes, no access to this? It's nowhere near farming and all the rest of it. So you're building them for different reasons, right? And those different reasons need to be accessed in your mind. Now we know specifically why this fleece is here. It's not very defensive. You sort out court, you meet with the local lords, right? And you sort things out. It's the time when the leader's going to be seen, right? So the leader's going to visit these places, you know, summer houses and all the rest of it, in different times. But this site is not a summer house, right? This is an expression of, you know, this is part of Wales, right? There's a defensive nature to it, but it's also trying to meet with the local people, trying to offer courts, trying to offer the law of Howell there. Now, you need places of law to offer justice. So the concept of what you're talking about, was it purely a castle in the sense of Carnarvon? No. Carnarvon was there to control people. Caerphilly was there to control people. This was here to offer itself to people, which is a difference, right? These are not controlling people. These are allowing people to come in and offer who you are. And hopefully that'll make sense. These are not brandish statements like Chepstow Castle is. Chepstow Castle, interestingly enough, I think the date of Chepstow Castle is being constructed in the December of 1066, within months, within weeks. We actually, when the king is being crowned, when William I is being crowned on the 25th of December, note the date, the 25th of December, 1066, easy to remember, right? When he's being crowned, they are actually building a castle, Chepstow, on the Welsh side of Offa's Now,
right.
that is an expression of...
Well, these had a major need at the administration of the area. Remember, they needed to collect taxes as well as see justice done with running the whole place to keep it safe and stop bandit gangs raiding and rustling and things like that.
Actually, Roger, the taxation is intimately involved with the justice system, right?
Yes.
So we had a different system in Cymru Wales, but obviously fines was a very important way of taxing people, right? And that was medieval structured life. So, you know, nobody's going to get away with paying nothing, right? So, you know, it was that type of system, and very much, and then the Norman system is very much on taxes and fines, but our system was a bit more fluid. And yes, you are right with that. Obviously, the whole structure is dependent upon these localities, and that answers the question. Right. So, okay, then the last site I'd like to do, and notice that there's a garderobe, and that's probably a garderobe as well. So, yes, don't try and all that brown stuff there. Right. Let's move on. Right. This site itself is the last site that we're going to visit today. And I've mentioned it. This is Castell Morgraig. Right. This is a very, very weird site. This was excavated by John Ward. I do believe before the First World War. John Ward was the guy excavating Tinkingwood burial chamber in the Vale of Glamorgan. He also excavated at Castell Morgraig. Now, I have been to Castell Morgraig. I've been to Castell Morgraig more than once, and it's a castle that is a bit like Dinas Emrys. It's fallen into massive disrepair, but it's an interesting site, and I've got my dates for the excavations wrong. It was a little bit before the First World War, right? So John Ward excavated this site. Now, this was a guy who was from over the border. He had heard about this site, full of the spirit of the late Victorians. He wished to excavate this site, and he excavated the site in 1905. And unfortunately, as they were excavating this site, this Castell Morgraig, just near Caerphilly, just above the M4 corridor. We've got really fine stonework there. And unfortunately, the excavations of John Ward meant that the site was to decay quite rapidly. And, you know, one of the things is that since the site was excavated, there's been a fierce debate. The fierce debate about the ruins, who built the castle and why. Now, personally, I feel like a site that we've mentioned before, Dinas Powys Castle in the Vale of Glamorgan, I believe that this was actually built by native lords, right? And it's believed that in 1315, this took part in the Llywelyn Bren rebellion of 1315-1316, and this is a politically emotive site. It brings a lot of energy. People go to this site and they feel, oh, it's built by the Normans, but why would the site be built by the Normans when not too far away you've got Caerphilly Castle, right? And some people believe that this is in response to the Normans building castles. This itself is on an overgrown spit of ground known as a Llanisian rock, and it's 800 feet up. It falls away quite clearly towards the south. It falls away a little bit more gently towards the north. It's accessible on a ridge towards the east and the west. This site itself is an amazing, fascinating site, and it's trying to work out the real date and the real information about this site. And people have been working and trying to really understand what this site is about. All things considered, though, it was probably sometime built in the 1240s, and it may have been. Say that again.
With the boundaries, there's something I'm not quite sure with ownership issues and warring between the families based in Cardiff Castle and around Linsley Vale, and what came out of Caerphilly, because the old Castell Cork, the original castle that was up there, the lookout, as well as the tower in Woodchurch itself, seemed to be on borderlands when there was a bit of fighting between the Camotes and the areas coming out of the both sides, with the Earls of Pembroke one time in Cardiff, I think. The declares had been in Caerphilly and people afterwards. So it might have been a lot of boundary issues where they were watching each other, if you like, to not lose any lands or anything within them. It could be something there with that contention between the two areas.
But it's likely that this site.
That's right.
It's likely that this site was never ever completed, right? And before Ellen says anything, don't. This site itself was originally believed to be the plan of the site. Now, the reason, you know, if we just sort of go through the notes on this, the shape of the castle walls and the thickening on one side of each tower was evidence that this had seen changes, right? It looks like this site had never been completed. One of the critical factors of this site is that there is lots of carved stone there. And for me, what makes it a native build castle is that there's no gateway. There's no gatehouse. Start again. There is a gateway, but there's no gatehouse. Basically, I should have made this clear earlier on, that there's entrances into Welsh castles, but there's no actual gateways, gate towers, portcullises, and all the rest of it. And if you can look at that, that actually has quite a crude entrance into it, right? It doesn't have a massive, powerful gateway into it, right? And also what you do find is a D-shaped tower. The shape is quite strange. Now, it could be argued that, you know, there's bits of Sutton stone at the site, right? There's you know, there's some historians saying, you know, it's inconceivable that the Welsh could have built it, but some people actually saying it's inconceivable that the De Clare families built it as well. But all to be said about this site is that this itself, where it was, would have been a massive threat to Cardiff Castle, right? And it's sort of in a weird place because north of here is actually Caerphilly. So it's quite strange. So you've got this between Cardiff and Caerphilly. This is why some people believe this is a Welsh-built castle. Unfortunately, when this site was excavated by John Ward, John Ward was quite obsessed with this being a site built by the Normans, but at times he was also obsessed. But this could have actually been built by the native lords of the area. But for me, particularly, ending with this whole thing today is a sense of mystery. We can talk about what historians and archaeologists talk about this castle, and I've got a list of things in front of me. Right, I've got a real list of things. What makes it a Norman castle? What makes it a native castle? Right, I've got a list of them. Right, but it's well worth visiting this site. And unfortunately, since the time of excavation by our friend John Ward, a lot of destruction has happened at the site, even stones being taken. So detective work today is made very difficult. And the other thing as well is if we think about this, there's very little of the original site unexcavated. So that means that the dating evidence has been mucked around with and altered. The other thing as well is in excavating this site, you might find Norman material because the Normans would have occupied it. In excavating this site, you're going to find native material because it's likely that the first people building this were actually the native lords, and maybe later on the Normans did a bit of building there. But this is very, very odd in shape, a very, very odd type of site, right? But in regards to native build sites, there are other sites like this across Wales, right? And this for me is what makes Castell Graig in Glamorgan a native build site. But it was used for a very, very short period of time. But it does actually give you an idea of the power and strength still of the native lords of Sengennydd before they were actually defeated by the Normans from Cardiff and the Normans from Caerphilly. And that would have ended the hopes of an independent Wales in the south. But again, let's not get nationalistic. And then finally, this links us in with another part of the lecture today. This links us in with when we mentioned about a round tower at Dolforwyn, right? This is actually what's described as a round tower at Trellick, but I believe it's something else, i.e. a dovecote building, but that's me. However, this is a site that we'll be looking at in the next series of lectures as of September. And what we will be doing, we'll be looking at Wales from an excavated perspective. We'll obviously be revisiting Cosmeston Medieval Village. We'll be looking a little bit more of the archaeological evidence at Dolforwyn. We'll be going back to Llys Rosser. We might actually be telling you a little bit about the excavations at Harlech. We might be telling you about some of the excavations at places like Caerphilly and some of the sites in West Wales. For me today, I'd like to say thanks for joining me on this expedition of 5 lectures to look at some of the archaeological excavated evidence across Wales, Cymru, and we visited quite a number of different sites. I think if we think about, we visited about 25 or at least 20 odd different archaeological sites about across Wales. Most of them have been archaeologically excavated, and most of these sites you may never have heard of or seen or visited, but it's been an absolute delight to show you this wonderful landscape. So we're going to finish that today. Anybody else watching online, there's a few people watching online. If you'd like to put any questions up, we're going to finish with some questions. You can ask general questions about the other 4 classes and this today. And I'm not going to give you an answer to the question of the last king of Wales, but again, it's not what you would usually read on the internet. Right, that's that. So hopefully see you back in September. Let's have any questions with David Dimbleby or even Hugh Edwards. Right.
Well, can I say, Carl, it's been a fascinating lecture today.
Good.
For myself, it's opened up so much that I'll have to start doing research on it, because there's so much you've given locally and around that opens up an awful lot of questions and an awful lot of history, apart from the obvious one with Edward I and called building wonderful Norman structures, that a lot happened here as well. Yes. Excellent.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. If that's that from you today, it's been a delight having you on. So I'll see you back in September, Roger. Daddy, baby, a mummy baby, Ellen.
I've got 2 questions actually.
Okay.
How far west did the Normans sort of come?
Well,
Or whatever.
That's a really weird question, because the Little England, as you know, is Pembrokeshire. The Flemish settlers, and they started occupying and settling that area probably as they're starting to occupy and settle Morgannwg and Chepstow. It basically held out as like a native land. If the North Wales and tiny bits of Powys and bits of Dalbadan and not Dalbadan. Why did I say Dalbadan? Right, start again. Bits of Wales that hung out and strung on to at least 1280 odd, 1282, 1283, were Gwynedd, other parts of North Wales, all the way down to Aberystwyth and further on to bits of Cardigan. You've got Deheubarth as well, that's sort of strung out, that's sort of Groesloin, Carrick-Cannon, but that doesn't go west into the likes of Pembrokeshire. It's sort of the weird little area sort of above Llanelli all the way to Lampeter, that sort of Deheubarth. And then after 1282, the Normans decided they wanted the rest of Wales, and that's exactly what happened.
Right. The other question I have is, can I did you so is last week's session on YouTube or recorded or something?
It's recorded. We'll send it over to you, Ellen. We will. We'll be very good. We will send it to you, like, you know.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll leave that one there. Right. Anyway, thank you for joining us, Ellen, and good to be back. Anyway, and Nina, lovely Nina. Nina's the type of woman you want to cuddle and never let her go. Right. Okay, Nina, anything you'd like
it's
to tell
better than
us?
what you said earlier before YouTube came on. I won't quote that. You have to be polite for the audience.
Yes, you've got to be polite to the audience. I didn't say anything derogatory. It was quite a nice thing I said about you, actually.
Right, okay. I haven't got any questions. I've made loads of notes. What am I actually going to do with all these notes?
What you need to do with these notes is when we do the next classes in September, it'll all be linked in with it, so you can refer back to some of those notes.
And I've spelled everything wrong, so maybe I need to go back and get all the right spellings.
Right, I tell you what we'll do to help you out a minute, right, and help everybody else out. If I go on if I do my little whiteboard, right, we'll spell the places that we visited today, okay? Right, so the first one that we did today, the one up in the north, was Dinas and Emrys. So that's the first one we looked up in Gwynedd, okay? So Dinas Emrys, okay? Yeah. So the next site that we visited was Llys Rosir. Right, so what we're going to do is, this was the other one we went to on Anglesey. So that was Llys Rosir. So that's the one on Anglesey. That's the palace I referred to. That's associated with the leaders and kings of North Wales. So that's the second site. So the other site that we visited now, clear drawings, is Dol Forwyn. Hang on a minute, I got to double check the spelling on that. Hang on a minute, there's something missing. There's something wrong with that. Hang on a minute. There's something missing. Hang on a minute. I just got to double check myself. Hang on. D-O-L. Oh, we've mentioned 4. Hang on a minute. Let's just start spelling that one again. Hang on a minute. I missed out a whole bit. So D-O-L-F-O-R-W-Y and Dolforwyn. So that's the third
what
site.
that means.
Dol, that would be tower or keep or location. I'm not sure about the rest of the spelling.
Yeah, that's fine. Borrowing, yeah.
Forwyn.
Borrowing, maid.
Forwyn.
Is it
The
maid?
the tower of the maid, maybe. Exactly. Thank you for that.
Oh, Forwyn is made.
Yes.
So the Dol, the tower, the place, the location, the defended whatever.
Yeah.
Dol. Yes, exactly.
Well, Dol could be a valley as well, because in Welsh you've got Dol a Bryn. Well, Bryn is a hill and Dol is down there.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you for that.
You know. Yeah, a Dol is like the land down. So I don't know whether that's
as in hillside, as in the base, or
well,
down below
yeah,
that.
down the Dol. It's down like down in the valley where flat space.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. And then finally, the other site, and the one that we mentioned, the other site is Morgraig. Well, obviously, Graig meaning rock. If it comes from the Morganog, which is obviously Glamorgan. But
Nothing to do with the sea either, is it?
Well, it's a bit of away from the sea, isn't it? M-O-R.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's not circumflex.
As in Glanmore, yeah.
Yes.
There's no circumflex on the O, so it comes back.
Stop showing off, Rich. Nobody likes a showy. Right, so and if because Roger likes showing off, you know, I've only, you know, I badged into Roger when he's been on excursions in his bedroom. He's always sat on the bed watching television in his pants. Don't even go there. I'll tell you a little bit of a story at the end of this in a minute about the excursions, and this one ain't about Roger, for once. And the other place that we mentioned was Trellick. Now that's the one which is near Monmouth.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, there are 20 other spellings of Trellick. So however you spell Trellick. Oh, by the way, Nina, how did you spell Trellick? Spell it out for me, and I'll tell you if you're right.
Oh, I don't even remember that one actually.
Mind you, if you had written it down,
I don't even remember doing that one.
That was the last one, the round tower thing from Trellick. Anyway,
I hadn't even got a name on it.
All right then. Well, whatever spelling you put down, you was probably right, because there's 20 different ways of spelling Trellick, so you can't be wrong with it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I had that one down. I don't know what that was. Oh.
One of the Welsh spellings is Trelig, T-R-E-L-I-G.
Oh, my notes are not going to make any sense now.
Don't worry about it, man. It's fine. Nina, just chill, man. Chill.
That's the one that John Ward excavated. Is that right?
Ah, no, John Ward excavated Morgraig.
Okay. Where's the Trellick one then?
Trellick one is in Trellick one is in Monmouth, and that's excavated by the wonderful Stuart Wilson, who whenever he sees Roger, asks why he isn't dead.
Is that the one with the no gatehouse and they weren't sure if it was the Normans or the natives?
The ones that they weren't sure it was the Normans or the natives was Mar Castell Morgraig.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've wrote anything about Trellick. I'll forget about that. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about it. That's the one we'll be doing next time, darling. Don't worry about it. It's all for the good of the country and naked people. Right. So stop share.
All right.
We're
all fine.
On the end of this lecture, I will tell you one little story about men in their underpants, right, for the women. We used to have these wonderful excursions, right, and I remember that that there used to be Chris and Peter, right. They always used to sit on. They always used to say, "Oh, come in here, Carl, and have a chat with us." They always used to be sat completely stark naked, other than their pants, sat on the side of the bed, drinking tea, watching television, right? So these are the types of excursions that we used to get onto. Oh yeah, and the other one as well is my son went on one of the excursions, went to Cornwall, right? And he had no underpants, right? So we had to loan Pete. And if anyone's ever met Pete, you'll know that it was a bit of a problem. Anyway, and on that, and the one final thing as well is never be in a minibus with Roger and ask Roger to loan Bill's phone.
Oh yeah, that's very delicate, Carl. This.
Yeah, yeah, it's still causing trauma.
It never will be forgotten.
It's still causing trauma. And on that note, is there anyone wanted to say anything? So what I will do, I'll keep in touch with you. We know the start date of the September one, so I'll give that to you now. The start date is the
4th, is it?
It is the 4th of September. That's when we're starting back, darlings.
Pedwaredd then.
And don't tell Gary, right? That make sure you occasionally take a £5 out of his his back pocket to get me the 30 quid. Okay, Ellen, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. He's outside at the moment with his friend, next door neighbour.
All right, then that's not a problem.
I
always see him chatting on the side of the bloody road. It's like Gary would make a good prostitute.
No, that's the COVID arms, that is.
All right, I'm not even going there. One last thing. I think for the sake of Ellen and Nina and myself, it's a great shame that that Mind's Eye is no longer where it was. So yeah, it's a big shame.
What do you mean where it was?
Oh well, basically it's now near the rugby club.
Oh, I thought that was an offshoot. I thought the cafe.
No, the cafe is now JoJo's, and I gotta be honest with you.
I didn't know that.
It's Joyo.
I don't bloody care what it's called. It's not. I gotta be honest with you. I went in there, right? I went in there, and I thought it was Mind's Eye, and I gotta be honest with you. The atmosphere was completely different.
Does Mind's Eye have a cafe at the place now, or is it just a bar and nightclub?
They're planning to do all that. Yeah, they are planning to do that.
Okay.
Oh, at the quarry.
Yeah, at the quarry in there. The reason why it's called the quarry because there used to be a quarry there. You see, that's why, you know. Bloody hell, no. Right. Any other questions before we go? Because I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna I got to go outside and I got to feed the chickens and Baldrick and by the way, Baldrick's fallen in love with Fudge. So
beware of the foxes.
Oh, don't talk to me about bloody foxes, Rog.
Well, no.
Well, is Baldrick outside now? Is he all grown up?
Oh no, that's Daddy Baldrick. I'm gonna say hello to Daddy Baldrick. Here we go. Hello. That's Daddy Baldrick. And that's baby Baldrick.
Oh,
there.
baby Baldrick's still in. Oh, there he is. I needed to see baby Baldrick.
There he is.
Good.
Just about.
That's great.
Right, this.
Oh, he has grown a lot.
Yeah, for me.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm only here for the Baldrick.
Nina, I know you missed the live classes and getting food poisoning. It's fine. It's great. Yeah, we won't talk about the food poisoning, will we, Nina? So
what was that?
yeah.
Your cookie, was it?
No, that this time it wasn't.
No, it was a pub in Lampeter. We won't name it. Name
We
and
won't.
shame.
We won't name and shame, but it was the weirdest classes I have ever done in my life.
Why were they weird?
Well, every time we turned up, they said, "Oh no, you've got to go in the other room." So we'd set up, we'd have to go in the other bloody room. It was a nightmare.
Oh,
So yeah, there was strange. There was this strange woman called Ellen. She used to come along. She was bloody odd, I tell you what.
oh,
Oh Christ! Hiya, Ellen.
she's on the screen, not good.
I know I'm
Anyway.
strange.
Right. Okay then. Anyone
You've got
else
to be
wanna say-
strange to be doing this, I think.
Yeah. You gotta be. Yeah. You gotta be.
Right then.
But I gotta cut my nose hairs after this, so we won't.
Right, okay.
Oh, by the way, as Ellen knows, we do Baldrick spots with a pin, right? So Daddy Baldrick actually has this.
Oh,
So we
Blackheads.
give. We've given,
really?
yeah, he's got
Yeah.
blackheads. Yeah, so you squeeze them, and this blackhead comes out and pus.
Oh, it's gross.
Oh,
What we do, we hook some of the sort of follicles, and we get stuff out, and it's great fun. We love it.
yeah. See you in September, Cal.
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
see
that's
ya.
Anyway, what
See
we'll
you,
do, we'll
Gary.
call it a day. It's been a pleasure, Nina, Roger, Gary, and Ellen, and the dog, Dave. We'll see you all very soon. And thank you very much.
Okay, Gav.
Ta-ra.
Take care. See you.
Take care, Rog, Nina, and Ellen.
Ta-ra.
Thank you very much. Take
Thanks.
care. Night.
Bye.
Night. And a partridge in a pear tree. Oh my
Are we
God.
still live or not?
We are still live here. What you
I
want me to? You want me to? Oh, I got to say hello to Black Dog a minute. Anyway, thanks, Black Dog. We'll say tomorrow. I got to do all the announcements tomorrow. At 7:30 online. And Wednesday. 10 to 11 a.m. and 7:30. Oh yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching us online. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to look in the chat box. Anything in the chat box? Oh, nothing in the chat box. Right. Okay. Nothing in the chat box tonight. So we're going to call that day. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the join button. Follow my question of the day and everything else on YouTube. And thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr i chi and Amar o hyd. Thank you very much. Take care. Thank you. Right, that's it, Alan. We're going to come off record on 3, 2,